Hi everybody, it's Miss Krissa. So me trying to remember how to work my laptop webcam is like comedy. But anyways, so wanted to spend a few minutes tonight with our Youth of the Chapel parents and those students who missed the meeting tonight because a lot of people are on spring break. Just wanted to kind of reach across the internet world, let you know about the new study that we introduced tonight that we're going to be working on for the next several weeks. Talk over kind of some summer plans and things like that. So finished up tonight officially. The Catholic youth kind of rounded down and finished up the study that we've been working on, which has been a how-to series. Several months ago, the youth sat down, made a list of all of the things that they wanted to study. And so as we as leaders went back and looked at this, we noticed that there was kind of a theme, and that was this idea of how to, which is very common for teenagers when it comes to abstract concepts like faith and faith formation. They wouldn't know how to do it in their life, right? So pragmatic based approach, talking about the practice of their faith in everyday life. And so we've done this really great how-to series. We've had several of our leaders have been teachers. We kind of wrote the retreat program around it, but the idea of how to. So we talked about lots of things. How to be a friend was the retreat. We've talked about how to share your faith. We've talked about how to pray, how to read the Bible, just a lot of different things that they wanted to discuss. And so we've had a great time with them doing that. And we're going to kind of shift gears now. Again, the Catholic youth finished up the How to Share Your Faith tonight. We introduced the concept of, for the Protestant youth, of that we're going to be studying. And it's based off of a study called Not a Fan. This study is by Kyle Inman. It's DVD based and book based. We will probably be dropping the links to the videos into our Facebook page so that you can watch them also. But wanted to kind of share with you just some of the awesome things about this concept. So on the top, on the superficial level, the concept itself is, are you a fan of Jesus or are you a follower of Jesus? Which seems like a pretty, simple answer. If you go and look at the definition of a fan, it is an enthusiastic observer, okay? And so think about being a fan of like your favorite football team, okay? So what does a fan do? A fan will like wear a jersey. A fan will commit time to watching all of the games. A fan may learn all of the stats about the players. A fan may study and watch videos and learn about the coach. A fan is probably associated with the place that the team is at. And so there were all these different things, right? And so I could like tomorrow decide that I was going to be a fan of, sports, right? Not that I'm not, but I could start wearing sports clothing. I could start eating healthy, and being like loud about it. I could start working out 3 times a day, or say that I'm working out 3 times a day. I could start watching videos about it. I could start listen. I could do all these things, right? Does that mean that I am an athlete? Not necessarily, but it could look like I am. And so the idea is very similar with this fan versus follower. Are you a fan of Jesus? Are you a follower of Jesus? So funny story, I'm reading this about this concept in the book, and there's this list in the middle of the book, and it doesn't tell you what the list is about, but here's the list. The list is Jesus t-shirt, got one. Memorize scripture, I know some. Worship music, love it. Goes to church, yes. Well, sometimes. What was the other one? Ringtone is a worship song. I've had one before. Gosh, it just went on and on. Excuse me. I can't remember what the other one was. Anyway, so I'm reading this list in the book. And I'm like excited because literally as I'm reading the list, I'm like, oh, I've done that. Oh, check, that's me. And then I get all the way to the end of the list and it says, these are the attributes of a fan of Jesus. And I'm like, wait, Miss Krista doesn't want to be a fan of Jesus. I don't want to be, I was telling the youth tonight that I struggle with this thing. if today's the day and I get there and I walk to Jesus and I see his beloved face, is he going to look at me and say, Krista, I don't know you? Or is he going to look at me and say, well done, good and faithful servant? This is something that I strive towards and think about often. And so it's also one of my big fears in life, right? Is that I don't want to be a fan. I want to be a follower. And so we talked about this idea. The book uses some excellent scripture. It talks about defining the relationship. So when I was like 13 years old, I met my husband, and we actually met at church. And so we spent time as we developed our relationship and began to connect to each other, talking on the phone, right? Because this was like way before cell phones, and there wasn't any internet. Well, there was internet, but it wasn't like public use. And so sometimes we wrote letters to each other and sent them back and forth. We grew up 100 miles apart. A lot of times, or most of the time, we would talk on the phone at night when I got off work and he got off work. There was a little bit of time where we were emailing, like my junior, senior year of high school. Like email kind of became a thing, and it was like slow dial up and made funny noises. But I do remember exchanging a couple emails with him. And so, we developed this connection and learned about each other over the course of this time. We talked about things like school and families. I told him about my boyfriend. He told me about his girlfriend. We talked about just life, we talked about our jobs. We both had jobs. We just talked about our faith. We talked about the things that we had in common, the things that we did, music. I mean, just if you can name it, we just talked about. We were getting to know each other. And so we developed this connection over this course of time. And so I was visiting him at his house, and he had gotten off. I had been there all weekend long. Our families knew each other. He has siblings who are very close to our age, and his parents, who I totally adore, were just really have always kind of taken care of me. And so we're there, or I'm there, and I'm in the barn. He comes home from work that night. I've been hanging around with his family all day, and there were horses out there. Anyways, we're out there in the barn, and he told me that he had feelings for me. Okay. And I won't tell you what I said. I won't tell you what my reaction is, because it's one of the few things that I've said that I regret that has followed me for the rest of my life. So if you ever want to know, ask him, because he remembers and he will tell you. But anyways, so the point of that is that he was trying to define our relationship at that point. Okay. And so this concept of fan versus followers starts with this concept that they refer to as DTR, define the relationship. If Jesus were to ask you directly, hey, define our relationship. What does it mean to you? What is our relationship? Are you a fan of me, or are you a follower? Are you all in, or are you lukewarm? And so I explained to the youth, I can't answer this for my daughter. My parents couldn't answer this for me. It doesn't matter if my parents and grandparents are all Christians. This is an individual decision and an individual discussion with Christ. This is not something that anybody else can answer for them. And so it becomes very important, number one, for them to understand that. And number two, what does defining my relationship with Jesus look like? And so we turn to the Bible. We look in Luke 9, 21 through 27, where Jesus is basically having this define the relationship discussion with the disciples, right? And he's explaining to them what they need to do to define their relationship for people to know that they are a follower of him. And so what he says to them is, he says, you must follow me daily and pick up your cross. Okay. And so we hear this conversation that they have. And we know already that Jesus was crucified. Okay. But put yourself in their shoes for a minute. This is where I always tell the youth, read before and read after, and do some research about the historical context of what's being said. Because Jesus was never anything but careful and precise with his words. Okay. And so Jesus says, follow me. All right. When young Jewish men went off to learn the Torah, there was this point after they had studied and learned it, or learned the basic parts of it, the beginning. There would be this point where the rabbi would look at his students and he would choose, I don't know how many, but he would choose specific students and say, okay, you're going to come and you're going to learn more. You're going to come and learn about the scripture. You're going to come and spend more time studying with me. And so the term, and then the other boys, they would go off to learn trades, to learn to be carpenters, to learn to be fishermen, to learn to be blacksmiths, and all of these other, vocations that the world involved in. So anyways, the term that he would use to the students who would continue on to study with him is follow me, which is also why Jesus used the term follow me when he went to get the disciples, because this term, if you were selected for the follow me part of this, was an honor to be asked this, okay? And so you have to understand this concept, this culture that Jesus is living in at this time. It is an honor, shame culture, all right? And so an honor to be selected to follow, okay, by the rabbi. And so he uses this term, you have to follow me, okay, which they've already committed to doing. But then he says, and you have to pick up your cross daily. And so this is where I just can't even imagine what the disciples were thinking, okay, because I just imagine them to be shocked. And so the execution of crucifixion was very common by the Romans, and there were other places in Persia where it was common at the time. It wasn't until I think 4th century that it was outlawed by the emperor who had become a Christian, and he kind of did that to honor Jesus's death. But so anyways, going back to crucifixion, so when he uses the words pick up your cross, we already know that he's going to be crucified, and we know what happens. And so we start interpreting that scripture through, our Western eyes and our knowledge of what occurred. But really, you have to remember, number one, that they don't know he's going to be crucified. Number two, a crucifixion, this kind of execution is extremely shameful in this culture, in this society. It is reserved for the lowest of low, for slaves, for people who are like on the bottom of the shoe of society, okay? Not only do they shame you publicly by beating you and oftentimes stripping you naked, and then putting the very source of your death, your crossbeam, across your shoulders and forcing you to carry it to another public place where they're going to hang you and you're going to slowly die of asphyxiation, and it's a horrible death, right? So it's public, which is shameful. They're going to publicly humiliate you first. Oftentimes, these people weren't even given proper burials. Their bodies were left up there as an example to other people, as a reminder. It is just a very shameful, horrible death. And so Jesus uses these two terms, follow me and bear your cross, at the same time. And I can't even imagine just how shocking it must have been to listen to. Like, that's what you want me to do to define our relationship, But Jesus is saying, like, you have to be willing to do this. You have to be willing, not like, don't just sport the Jesus t-shirt. You have to be willing to be shamed, to be rejected, to be opposed, to do all of these things. And so we had this really impactful, really good conversation with the youth, and they started having more discussions about developing this concept. And the coolest thing happened, you guys. They came up with this brilliant list. One side was everything that a fan would do, and one side was everything that a follower would do. And let me tell you, these kids get it, okay? And if they didn't get it as we continued the discussion and we were adding things to the list, like, they were getting it, and it was beautiful to watch. So I'm going to post a picture of the list tonight so you guys can see some of the things. But these are tools. These are things that you can engage your students with about faith-based conversations, and help them begin to start to formulate, or if they're already formulating, walk alongside of them as they do it. They will learn more from discussing this with you, no matter if you have the right or wrong answers, just discussing it with you, because you are trusted and safe as a parent. And I already know that if you bring your student to Youth at the Chapel, that you probably have a decent relationship, that faith plays an integral role or a role in your family, and that you want your students to grow up knowing about their faith. So we all know that this is a process in life. We are all not perfect, and we're all always growing and developing, even when we grow up. But this is a place to start having those conversations. So we just want to empower you to start giving you tools to let you know what it is that we're talking about. We will post actually I can post the discussion pieces that they're looking at, but we will post the videos. Now keep in mind, this is adult curriculum that we are adapting through discussions for our youth in a small group format, and they are separated not by gender but by age group. And so like our 9th to 11th graders are together, and our 6th and 7th graders are together. And then because we have so many, we have 8th graders. But great conversation tonight. Had a great time with the students. Please let us know if you have any conversations. Next meeting is April 28th. It's actually not a meeting. It's just a Yaka night out. We'll be at the bowling alley at 5 o'clock. It is pay your way. We'll be there until 7:30. Students will need to bring money to pay for bowling and if they want food. So there will be youth of the chapel adults there to supervise the youth. You're welcome to stay too. We encourage parents to always come. This is just a fellowship night. But anyways, and then we have 2 meetings in May, May 12th and May 19th. We do know that May 12th is Mother's Day. It is Bring Your Mom to Yak Night. So if your family's not doing anything else and you just want to come spend a night at youth group, that would be great. God bless you. Thank you so much for trusting us and allowing us to serve your family by spending time with your students. Have a great night. Bye-bye.